G'day, guys. Well, guess what? You can see this.
Looking sharp, Dobbo.
Looking sharp, all right. Because
And what
you know
about your
what?
lunchbox that you brought in as well?
Mate, it's got a couple of little frothies, coffee over there. You know what you have to do? You need to punt with Ladbrokes to get more out of your footy multis. Now, I can only give you so much. So you go onto the Ladbrokes app, you make quick, smart picks with stats and insights from the last 5 games. It's all there on the Ladbrokes app. If you go looking, as you can see, a very, very easy thing to do at Ladbrokes. You track your multis in real time. It's all within the app. Jump on the Ladbrokes app today. I got to tell you, when I got on there, I was like, okay, how do you navigate this? And, you know, I'm not that bright with things, but it's so easy. It's so easy. So get on the Ladbrokes app today, punt with Ladbrokes and get more out of your footy multis. You might even get yourself some good gear. Well, our guest today, I'll tell you what, we talk about that tackle. That's what we do on the Inside Ball. This bloke,
yeah, more than the tackle, Dobbo.
No, I'm just about, let me say, this bloke is a legend. Sometimes he floats in the breeze with me. But you know what? I've worked with him. He's been an unbelievable rugby league player. And he's back as the Titans now head of football. He is a great man, the great Scotty Sattler. Hello, my friend.
Dobbo, Cow.
How are you,
Kevin,
Sats?
good to see you,
Welcome,
guys.
mate.
Thank you very much. Floating in the breeze, so can you explain
With
that?
me, okay,
What's that all about?
Okay, so
And what about, yeah, go on.
So there was many a day where Sats and I worked together at Intrust Super Cup level.
Right.
Then Sats loved to get you part of the Triple M call team.
Yeah.
Mate, on open board. Yes?
Yeah.
You think, you know,
Well,
pick
he's
and
moved,
stick, pick and stick. That's
he's
what I
moved
say.
on, mate. He's got his own show now, just like you.
Well, I know, mate.
You
we
wanted to
got
stay in your
laid
stable.
Dobbo F off. That's what happened. It was me, Scotty Sattler,
Well,
and Frankie Barrett. That was our call
it was
team.
too, yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was
it
our
was
call
too.
team. I think you might have wide-handed him in the end. Anyway.
No, I don't wide-hand anyone, mate.
No.
I've been wide-handed. It's not much fun.
We've all been
We've
there.
all
Kev.
been there. We've all been
there.
there.
I know.
Mate, legend, thank you for being with us.
No,
grand final week, and I mean that
Yeah.
seriously. When we were talking about, okay, we would need somebody who has a significant story in a grand final. And when Kevie said you'd come on, we were like, oh, mate, bang, we've got to get you, mate. So we're just happy to have you here.
So has the phone been ringing all week for you, mate, with this grand, like, seriously?
Do you know you're-
talking you through the tackle and the grand final.
Do you
and-
know Paul Osborne?
Yeah,
One of the
Ozzy.
great
One of the
humans.
greats.
He's the other one.
Yeah, he's another one. Yeah.
Ozzy texts me every Monday of grand final where he goes, oh,
Here
I've
we
got
go
another
again.
week where I've got to go to lunch and talk about 1994. And, we always have a really good joke. But it's a great week, isn't it? It doesn't
mate,
matter
it's
who's
fantastic.
playing. It's just a great week. It's
Yeah.
a great festival of footy. And it is a special week. It's always been a special week for me purely because our grand final team, we get together every grand final week.
Do you?
Every year. This is the first year we're not.
Is that right?
Because
What's
everyone's
happened?
There's
Everyone's
too much
away
going
with
on around with different NRL engagements, whatever
Yeah.
it may be. But every year we get together and we always look forward to that.
Oh, shit.
Sats,
What do you, wait, I want to,
Yeah.
what do you normally do? Do you just
so
have
we
a
go,
lunch?
we go and find a separate pub around the rocks.
Yep.
Around Sydney, and we just go and perch ourselves until they tell us we've been there too long.
On the Friday or
On
Saturday?
the Friday,
Yeah.
Responsible service of alcohol. We've got to move you on now to the
Yeah.
next establishment. So we've
Right.
been doing that since
Fortune of War,
2000.
Orient, they've
Yeah.
been everywhere, mate.
Exactly, yeah.
Hey, Sats, what do you think of Sunday? Like, I mean, because you're a proud Penrith man, your Premiership player, just before we get into your story, just what that club has done over 5 years and what you thought of what happened there on Sunday.
I didn't think we were going to see anything like the Broncos-Canberra game for a long time.
Yeah.
Take grand finals out of the equation. But to see what was going on Sunday, to be 14-0 behind a team that just closes teams out as with their eyes closed, was quite amazing. I think the crowd played a huge role in in that back end of the game as well. They shut down Reece, and then all of a sudden Reece is the one that finds the play to ice it. But to see the scenes on Sunday and to see the way that it played out, I love it that Brisbane's in a grand final purely because of they represent, when there aren't other Queensland teams, they represent the whole state.
Bloody oath.
And outside of that, I'm also, there's a part of me that I want Penrith to be there because my son Jack, who works, he's been at Penrith 3 years now, and in the footy office,
right.
he does all data and analytics and that sort of stuff as part of that team and recruitment. And and obviously I want them to go through and win as many as possible. But I love that Penrith have forced other teams to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone's trying to rise to try and figure out what the secret is there. And
yeah, that's what the great
so
clubs do, don't they?
so that's what's been so great about watching their journey. It won't end. I mean, they'll be back again next year.
Reporter, who was it asked the question in the presser to?
That was Bomber.
It was Bomber.
That was Bomber Bedell.
Bomber went
It's
down
not over, mate. What are you talking
just
about?
having a
Nobody
good rock,
died, you know.
Yeah.
So they thought that was good. Righto, let's get back to you, mate.
Yep.
Yeah, you grew up on the coast. Born in Sydney.
So I was born in Sydney, and then my dad, his final year at South was 1972. And then everyone sort of left South at the end of the 71 grand final and then 72, just financial reasons. And so after 72, the QRL signed Dad and Tommy Bishop to come and strengthen the Brisbane comp. So he went to Wests for 2 years, West Panthers.
Well, he would have been still like playing for Australia. And
so he just finished playing for Australia.
Right.
He captained the New Zealand tour in 71 to New Zealand, and the Australian tour in New Zealand. And then 72 obviously played Queensland, and we lived at Everton Park.
Yeah.
And by that stage, I was only 1 year old.
Yeah.
So I basically grew up my whole life in Queensland. And when my dad retired in 75, he had his last year with North Devils. Yeah. Bobby Bax convinced him to come across. And he said, I want you to come across. We can't pay you any money. He said, but I want you to tutor and mentor this kid called Daryl Broman.
Oh,
is that right?
So he came across, and both he and Daryl was 17 or 18 playing in the front row. And Dad had one of his most enjoyable years he's ever had in rugby league at North. And at the presentation night, Bobby Bax said, Sats, can you follow me out to the back of his car? He opened up the door and handed him all this cash.
Yeah, is that right? At the very end.
Which Baxi was famous for. So from then on, we lived in pubs.
Yeah.
My dad never drank a drop of alcohol his whole footy career. And his first job in Brizzy was working for Carlton United Breweries.
Right.
And then in 76, we took over the Young Australian pub in Gladstone.
Yeah.
And he made up for all the years that he didn't drink in the years after. And we lived in all the pubs that we owned.
So you were a pub kid?
Yeah, just grew up in pubs my whole life.
How was that? Was that a good lifestyle?
Loved it. Saw things that probably no kid should possibly see. I reckon Child Protection Services would take us off the parents if it was today. But yeah, a
good upbringing, a wonderful upbringing.
Yeah, my old man used to always say, you always should be able to talk to the bricklayer and the barrister.
Yeah.
So you go up into the private bar and you talk to the lawyers and the barristers, and you go down the public bar and talk to the bricklayers. Yeah. And it was a really good life education for my sister and I.
Yeah.
And to see the characters that came through the place. A lot of violence involved. There's a lot of people that every Friday night, I've never seen Dad get beaten in a fight, and I think I've seen him in probably 200 fights, 300 fights.
Really?
Right. Yeah. And I've never seen him get beaten.
200 or 300 fights?
Oh, easy. Yeah. Maybe
after he finished playing.
After he finished.
Yeah, always. At
every
those
Friday
pubs,
night, there'd be someone come
want...
from a different pub to try and take the crown.
Right.
Yeah.
And he never lost.
They always walked away a little bit disfigured. Yeah.
I love that. Hey, Sats, so where was the first game of rugby league? Because you were, was it in Gladstone? Was that where?
No, I didn't play rugby league till I was about 12. My dad wouldn't let me play rugby league. He thought it was too rough.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah. This is coming from a
guy. This is a bloke that broke his jaw.
This is one of the hardest players to ever play the game.
He says, too rough. I don't want you playing rugby league. So I played soccer up until I was sort of 11, 12.
Yeah.
And then from there I went to a team on the Gold Coast, Runaway Bay Seagulls, where I started really just playing junior footy. And then I stayed there until I got graded at the Gold Coast Seagulls. So, I went to finish my schooling off on the Gold Coast, Coomera State High School. And
that one, Is that a rugby? That's a rugby league school.
Yeah, it was a really big rugby league school there for a while. Yeah.
So the Gold Coast is so much in your DNA. I know you went to the Seagulls, but that is really home for you. If somebody says, where do you identify? It's the Gold Coast.
So when I said I was going to retire, I was meant to play to the end of 2005, but I finished at the end of 2004. I had Mad Monday on the Monday, and we just missed out in the finals by 1 point at the West Tigers. And I ordered the removalists for the Wednesday to move back to the Gold Coast. It's my background. I love it. I'm really passionate about that area. And so, growing up on the Gold Coast has been it's been a great place to grow up at. My dad was the first owner of the Gold Coast Giants in 1988.
Is that right?
So, to be there for their first game against the Canterbury Bulldogs in 1988 at Seagull Stadium on a Saturday night, like all I ever wanted to do as a kid was if I was ever going to be a rugby league player, was play my whole career at the Gold Coast. That's all I ever wanted to do.
So, school, but when you started playing footy at 12,
Yep.
like, you know.
My final year of school was 89.
Yeah, were you making rep teams in the way through? Or?
Oh, I did it at 13s.
Yeah.
And then in 1989, my last year, Queensland schoolboys,
Yeah.
Kevie's mum and dad billeted me.
There you go.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Ipswich?
Merton Street.
Yeah, it was
3
true.
Merton Street.
Kerrod had just been picked for Australia.
Yeah.
And
Stevie and I would have been in Canberra.
you were in Canberra, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the lounge room and Kerrod sitting there next to me, like just eating dinner. And I'm going, I'm sitting next to the new Australian hooker. Like,
Is that right?
He's about to go to New Zealand.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So they were just so good to me. They treated me like I was one of their
Well, they
kids.
had plenty of experience.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
Five
Like
boys.
that, we talk about that. Billeting was a great thing. Like, I mean, even.
No blue cards back then.
No, but like, I got billeted out. You go on a rugby tour or a rugby league tour,
Yeah.
you get billeted with the families. You know, and I mean.
You're
like,
praying that you got double billed. You know,
Yeah, but you were
with,
always.
I
So,
got
but it
billeted
was-
in Townsville, under 13 South Queensland team.
Yeah.
The bus pulled up, and you look at all the families.
Families,
and waiting,
yeah.
I hope I get there.
Yeah,
mate."
yeah.
So I was standing with my bag. The managers had gone to their hotel. All the families had taken their kids. I was the only one left over.
No.
And a lady turned up on a push bike.
Oh, no way.
And I had to double her home. I slept on the couch, and she was a stripper.
That's the best story we've heard on the Inside Ball.
Ever. Well, that's why billeting was so good. At 13, at 13, Christmas had come.
Did she give you a welcome
I was sitting on the couch watching TV. It was about 11 o'clock, and she goes, "Well, I'm off to work."
You're 13 years old.
Mate, I'm like at 13. I'm like, you beauty. I've hit the jackpot. Yeah. So
Wow.
it was good, Nick. So how do you get graded? How does that take place?
So I made the Queensland schoolboys.
Yeah.
I was playing for Runaway Bay as well. We had this really good team. We went through undefeated, and we won the state championships at Coomera State High School.
Yeah.
And then we won undefeated at Runaway Bay, and then from that Runaway Bay, the Gold Coast Giants, which then became the Gold Coast Seagulls,
Yeah.
reached out and said, "We've got a national under 21s team coming into the comp. Did you want to be part of it?" So started training, and was there 3 years. We had these amazing juniors coming through the place. There was Adrian Vowles, Kevin Campion, Jimmy Goddard,
Jeez.
David Bovang, all these really good players.
Yeah.
And Wally was the captain coach,
Yeah.
and he was really good to us young players. He debuted all of us at sort of 19, and he could see the future of the club was going to be in these really good young players.
Yeah.
But the club went another way, and they started signing a lot of the older players, so a lot of the young players left.
Yeah.
And
And-
sort of
right.
that's when the Gold Coast never found a lot of stability.
It's identity, really,
Yeah.
of what it was.
And who was in charge then and letting all that sort of happen?
I can't remember. I can't remember who it
Yeah,
was
right.
back then. Yeah,
So was that blokes like Brent Todd? Was that
there was Toddy, Steve Jackson, and Peter Gill, and they were all really good players. Darren Woolens,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
come from the Ian Staines, all over,
Yeah.
really good players. We had this really good crop of youngsters that are all coming through and playing first grade at sort of 19, and they
Just blocked them. They blocked their pathways.
so they didn't make them the priority.
Yeah.
So everyone just went and looked for other opportunities. And then the Cowboys started, and they lost a lot of players to the Cowboys.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you debuted in
At the Gold Coast.
Yeah, 20 years of age against Parramatta.
Yeah, against Parramatta.
Do you remember it?
Remember it like it was yesterday. I played under 21s, and then I was sat on the bench for second grade, and then I was about to have a shower at the end of second grade, and the team manager, maybe the old team manager, used to walk up and he'd go,
"We need you." And
Wally
you.
wants to sit on the bench for first grade. Myself and Jimmy Goddard, and so we got dressed and sat on the bench. We just sat there, and I'll never forget it. We'd scored a try, Parramatta, Gold Coast, and Wally was walking back. It was about 12 or 13 minutes to go, and I'll never forget Wally was with the trainer, and he looked across at us, and I saw him say the words, "Put the two young fellas on." And so we looked at each other. I said, "I think we're on here, Jimmy. I think we're on."
Yeah.
Said, "Guys, warm up." So I remember running on and running across and looking across and seeing Brett Kenny.
Wow.
I remember saying to myself, all I want to do is tackle or be tackled by Brett Kenny. And that was
How'd you
it.
go? How'd you go?
I did. First tackle. Yeah, I got tackled by him.
I love that.
So were you playing back row then, or what were you
Playing, second row lock.
Second row
yeah.
lock. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Did you win? Can you remember if you
We
won?
won 28-8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How good.
love
I remember
that.
Wally, and you play a lot of footy with Wally. I remember Wally, we got a penalty, and Wally basically constructed the whole set of six. He said, "We're going to do this and get to there. You're going to run across there, and then we're going to hit here, and there's going to be a shortage on this right hand side." And we went on, as a 19-year-old, I go, "Yeah, whatever." Kick the ball out. Jason Twist kicked the ball out, and we scored under the goalpost. It's the
Wow.
most amazing thing I've ever seen.
That's the
He
king.
was that
That's what the
good,
king.
mate.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
was always a step ahead,
Yeah.
even at Origin level.
Yeah.
That's what I used to always say. He was always one or two play the
Plays
balls ahead
Yeah.
of everyone.
Unreal.
Yeah.
So,
Unreal.
mate, what happened? It folded, Gold Coast. And so how did you end up leaving the Gold Coast, which would have broken your heart?
It did. Yeah, it did.
because you were so passionate about the coast.
There had a lot of instability there, and I actually signed at the Roosters for 3 years. It was really a 4-year deal. There was no such thing as like 4-year deals, but
Yeah.
it was like a 3-year with an option. And I got down there for 6 months. And I wasn't emotionally mature enough for Sydney.
Yeah.
And the South Queensland Crushers were starting up.
Yeah.
And Darryl Vanderbilt rang me and said, "Did you want to come home?" I went, "I'd love to." So I got out of Sydney pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's not their fault.
Were you living
my fault.
in eastern suburbs?
I
Or
was living in the Shire, Cronulla,
Right.
where a lot of the players
dangerous
live.
for a young player?
Yeah, so
Hey?
Northies, Carmens.
Carmen's, dollar drinks.
Yeah.
And but I couldn't wait to get. And it wasn't their fault. It was me, my maturity.
Yeah.
So when I came back, I'd sort of had to recalibrate again, and then went to the Crushers, which was so exciting. The first year was just
Huge.
It was like two teams in Brizzy. There's genuine rivalry, and then the second year, before we even kicked the ball off in the second year, they told us we can't pay us. We can't pay you. We got no money. Like it was the ARL Super League.
Yeah.
We got no money. So basically, we turned up to train. We worked.
Yeah.
I was working in a prison at the time, and then you go to training in the afternoon, and we were turning up and training and playing basically for free.
Wow.
We ended up getting a short payout at the end of the year, but it was nothing
What you were
what we
promised.
expected.
And so everyone just accepted that, did they?
Well, it was either that or take them on in court, and no one was really willing to do that.
So Mario, Gilly, all those guys were in that side?
yeah, Mark Hone.
Mark Hone.
Yeah.
Anthony
Gee,
Herbert, the
Anthony
ex-Wallaby.
Herbert came
Is that
across
right?
from
Yeah.
rugby.
You come across.
Yeah.
So I can't get over that you couldn't get paid. Like, and
Yeah.
that the ARL at that time weren't prepared to back it because
Yeah,
no
I
one knew what was going to
I
happen.
remember some of their representatives came up and we had a meeting and they said, "Oh, we're going to sort something out." And then we never sort of heard from them again. Well, us younger players didn't. We didn't hear from them.
Did you have a mortgage and all that sort of stuff?
I just bought my first house. I'd moved into my first house on grand final day of 1995, Bulldogs and Manly.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to wire up the antenna to try and watch the ground while I was moving furniture. And so I was only a young fella. I was only like 20, 22, 23. And then to be told you can't pay your mortgage, you're going to your mum and dad with your hand out saying like,
Yeah, what can I do?
back then it was still semi-professional. You're still working as
Yeah.
well. So, it was a tough time.
Did your dad give you much advice at playing? I mean, he's a great player himself. Did you lean on him much throughout your career for advice, or you just
More
sort of-
around training, Kev.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a prolific trainer.
Right.
He's just always super fit.
fitness fanatic, eh?
Around his training,
Lifting weights, he would have lifted weights. And all that
back
too.
then in the 60s and 70s, all those light weights,
Yeah.
light repetitious weights, and so it changed a fair bit. But he was always big on my preparation, which he instilled in me really, really early, which
That's good.
I never really strayed away from. And then my training as well. My dad was hard on me without saying anything, if that made sense.
Yeah.
And I know that throughout my whole career, people always say, "What was it like living in your shadow?" I never thought it was pressure. I always thought it was an absolute privilege playing with his last name and a guy that represented the game so well. And I always wore it like a badge of honour. And but with that came the internal pressure from him of expectations and if you had a bad game, he just wouldn't ring you.
You just know.
He just wouldn't ring you at all. And
Wow.
when you ring him, you go, "Things didn't go really well for you the other night, did they?" I went, "Nah, I didn't have a great game. Yeah, what about a tackle you fell off Kevie Walters or whatever it may be." You know?
But I wonder what it's like for, and I say this, we had Bill here last week, and Bill said like the minute he got going, like, you know, and he's had an unbelievable season. But I wonder what it'd be like for yourself, who is the son of a legend, Bill, who was the son of an absolute legend, you know, like playing. And so, and it must be difficult to create your own identity as a footballer. Right?
Yeah, I think after you get a big volume of games under your belt, and
You become
win
your
some
own,
games,
yeah.
I think there's people on the outside will always like maybe criticise you or question you, whatever. But people in the game, they know the difference, you know. And so, what I always found is that I watched Martin Lang and John Lang's relationship really closely, like Bill and Kev.
Yeah.
And I got a really good understanding of how dads can coach sons
Yeah.
really, really easily. You know, there's obviously a boundary in between. We don't cross it. There's always that level of love and respect. It's always going to be there. And then, and I watched that really closely when I was at Penrith, and it worked.
Well, they won a
really
premiership together, didn't they?
Yeah, it was just
It was part of that team, yeah.
Yeah.
Huge.
So,
What happens then, mate? You go to the Crushers, Super League, we know about it.
Yep.
But I reckon your best football's still ahead of you. That's
Yeah.
honest in your building. So it folds, like the Crushers fold. Are you like going, it must be, you've got a mortgage, you're back home, you love the
I
coast.
joined the police force when I was 18,
Yeah.
when I came out of school, and then I got my first sort of contract. So I always thought there's going to be one day I'm going to go back and join the police.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the time. You know, I started early, and I was playing really well when I started playing first grade as like a 20-year-old, and I was going really well. And then injuries, I broke my ankle and I broke my jaw, and so I had a couple of years of injuries. And then I got to that stage, Dobbo, when I thought maybe it's time to maybe go join the police force.
Yeah.
And then Phil Economides rang me from the Gold Coast Chargers.
Legend.
And he just, mate, it was really profound advice.
Yeah.
He said to me, Sats, last couple of years haven't been great. Like the Crushers folded, you've had injuries. How about you just come back and start again?
Start again.
Just peel all the layers back and just go back to where it started and just see where it takes you. So I did that.
Yeah.
And mate, from 97, well, first grade game, 97 through to 2000, when I retired, I didn't miss a game through injury. Anything.
So very diligent with your training and your recovery.
But
And
just going back to the basics and saying the fundamentals and saying, let's just start again and just get your head in the right space. And he was a great coach.
Scotty, Phil Economides, can we just quickly talk about that? I know he got spat out when everything folded and everything like that, but he's the one coach who I think didn't get the recognition for what he did with your roster, because I think he got you guys into
the finals,
in the semis. You
And
got
we
into
won
the
week one
semis,
in the
won finals.
finals.
Yeah.
We beat Illawarra.
Yeah.
And then went week 2 against the Roosters.
And then when he got that,
coach
he
of
never
the year.
coached. He never coached first grade ever again after once he got out. Like, just unbelievable.
He was a really good coach for a group of players who don't want to be continually just battered about rugby league.
Yeah.
And like I was different. I was obsessed by the game. I had to be because of the upbringing that I had. But the guys he was just a really good coach for a group of guys that just really wanted to just unite and connect and play together.
Yeah.
And that 97 year, made the final. We had to beat Manly in the second last round, and they'd won the minor premiership by about 8 points or something.
They were the gunshots.
juggernaut.
Yeah.
We had to beat them in the second last round at home, and it was a sellout at Carrara, and we just absolutely thumped them to make the finals. And it was a good time in the Gold Coast. We had great crowds and
things are starting to look up, hey?
Yeah, it was a good time.
And they folded.
Yeah,
all over.
The whole Super League. Just
That's what happened.
So what happened back then is we got told at the end of 97 that the Hunter Mariners players are going to come to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
That was Kamali, Hill, Aaron Mule, Richard Swain, Tarawa Nickow, all those sort of guys. And the board at the Gold Coast Chargers back then said, no, we made the finals, we're going alone. And so the Mariners players went to Melbourne.
And
won comp in 99.
99. They all did. They all went there. So, and those players would have probably kept the Gold Coast because it was on the bill. There's no way
Without
it folds.
Yeah.
So I forget
that door closed for you at the coast, right? So then you must have. Did you have a manager, or had you?
Never had a manager. My dad was my manager.
Right.
And then I got him. And then we played Penrith one day in '98 on a Sunday afternoon, and had a really good game. And remember back then they used to give like the 2 UE,
man of the match,
whatever it was, yeah. So got one of those. Got interviewed after the game, and then on the Monday morning,
Tony McGee would have been Tony McGee.
Tony McGee,
yeah.
No, it was Greg Pritchard.
Greg Pritchard, yeah.
He was the sideline man.
Yeah,
he was
sideline
too. And so on the Monday morning, my dad, we had the Helensvale Tavern. We'd built the Helensvale Tavern.
Yeah, right.
And so I remember standing there, and Dad said to me, Roy Simmons just called me from Penrith. He said he wants to know whether you'd be interested in having a chat. And I said, well, I'm about to re-sign here at the Gold Coast. And then Tony Durkin rang me.
Yeah.
Durkin rang me.
Man.
Well, he scooped. He said, hey, Sats, I just want to let you know the Gold Coast are going to be punted from the comp. This is still probably a quarter of the season to go.
Wow.
And I went, really? He goes, mate, they're going to be them and a couple of other Adelaide Rams. They're
Yeah.
going to be punted from the comp. I went, oh, okay, right. So the old man rang back. We played the Warriors the following week and had another good game, and Royce rang again. So I flew down, and both he and Mark Levy showed me around the facilities. And back then it was from the proceeds of Super League. They had this really good training facility, which was probably a little bit more advanced than a lot of clubs.
Yeah.
And I remember getting out there to that community and going, I could live out here. It's
Yeah.
like, Western Sydney. It's not the CBD. And
Yeah.
the facilities are awesome. Royce has won me over straight away like he does with everyone. And I had an option to go to Penrith, Souths or Manly.
Jeez.
I didn't go to Souths because I wore the same jersey number, and I didn't want to do that to Dad's jersey number, which was 13. And I said to Dad, it's Manly or Penrith. He said, if you play for Manly, I'll never watch you play another rugby league game again. So
it was always Penrith.
Yeah.
You remember what you
It's a good
paid?
move.
Remember what you signed for? Like, I mean, they were coming up the back of there was been extraordinary money
Yeah.
in the game.
So we've
but
gone back to the NRL.
NRL days
Yeah.
where everybody clipped. What do you remember?
The first season was 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still good dough, isn't it?
Well,
You know?
it's money I'd never seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And funnily enough, I don't think I've ever told anyone this, because back then not all the people had mobile phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Penrith were ringing my home phone, and I wasn't in. They were leaving messages on the
Answering
machine. So I
Yeah.
come home, there's all this beeping on. It was a Sunday. I'll never forget. It was a Sunday Arvo. I remember pushing the button and going, "G'day, Scott. Mark Levy here, Penrith Panthers. Can you give me a call back?" Hi, Scott. There's probably a reason why you're not calling us back. Is it we've sent an offer through to your manager, and because I had got one out for the Penrith deal, and obviously that's not enough. Mate, we've sent another offer through. And it's just because I'd been out and I didn't have a mobile,
Well-
it jumped about $40,000 or $50,000.
If you'd been there and answered, you probably would have done yourself. Yeah, it just kept on going.
Done
'cause
myself
of-
out of plenty
Wow.
of dough.
But Penrith weren't going that well at that stage. Like,
No,
I
but
know-
they had in the early 90s.
they had in the
Yeah.
90s,
back
but
grand
when you
finals.
went there,
Bit of a
it was
rebuild.
on a rebuild
Yeah,
again.
99 we missed the finals. I thought we should have played finals. We had a really good team.
Yeah,
2000 we finished. We played finals. Well, I think we finished fourth,
yeah,
and we got bundled out by Parramatta. 2001 we got the wooden spoon.
yeah.
2002 I think we were third. We're only third last because Melbourne lost all their points.
Right.
And then 2003 we were minor premiers and won it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go back the year before when I noticed that you had a sponsor that I remember this. Penrith.
What year you're at now?
I reckon it's 2002 or maybe 2001.
Is that
Even
try scoring?
And when you try scored, and if they promoted the sponsor,
It was NTG.
It was NTG. Can you tell us that story? Because I remember Pritis scoring, and he's up there, and everybody. Now,
You got a great memory.
I remember. Can you remember like
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
What
So I
happened?
remember we had a meeting and they said, one of our sponsors has said that if you score a try,
Yeah.
they're going to give X amount to the players.
The players were
like
getting
players fund.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a thing called the salary cap. So we knew nothing about the salary cap, but everyone was getting up and scoring tries and pointing to this NTG.
And getting up like this.
It was
And
free
no one,
advertising.
no one
Yeah.
knew what it was about. I
Yeah.
remember watching this game and the bloke said, I think there's something going on with the sponsor.
Right.
But, so what happens?
So what were they? What sort of business were they?
I can't remember. I think they were like a digital sort of
Right.
platform, yeah.
Sats, how does it go from wooden spoon, winning a few games, to bang? What happens with a core group?
Yeah.
And I saw it with you, Kevie. You went from
Well,
wooden
there was
spoon
obviously a clean out.
There
of
was obviously a
players.
clean out, and to get that core group of players that win the premiership.
There wasn't a massive clean out of players. We only added two players for 2003. 2002, Martin Lang came.
Yeah.
With Johnny.
With
Was
Johnny.
Johnny already there? Or?
No, Martin had signed before Royce. He
Right.
signed because of Royce.
Yeah.
Right.
Then Royce got sacked.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, he's a great coach, Royce. And then Johnny came in after Martin had signed. So he coached Martin his whole first grade career.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
they were both at Cronulla,
Cronulla.
weren't
yeah.
yeah.
So
they? He's still on the coast.
He
G'day
is.
to Marty.
He's
He's
a
a great
doctor
fella.
now.
Oh, he's a doctor.
Mate, he's
Mate,
doing
he's
so
a
well.
brainiac.
He's
We've
the
got to
only
get
guy
him on the
brainiac.
podcast. I'm going to reach out to you, mate.
I don't know if he'll do it. He
he's
doesn't
the only
like.
guy that got smarter with concussion.
Yeah, mate, he is a proper brainiac.
But he studies head, spinal,
yeah.
the trauma.
Yeah.
He's so
wonderful
smart.
guy.
He's
and
fine.
he's just become a dad again.
Yeah, right.
Dobbin,
Wonderful
yeah.
guy.
Yeah,
Well, that's
great
more
man.
reason to get him
Yeah.
on the show.
Yeah.
All right, you're next victim, mate.
Yeah.
You're not a victim, actually. You're coming on.
So for 2003, there was Preston Campbell and Ben Ross were the only two players that were added to it.
Presto come from Cronulla.
Ben Ross came from St George, a young front rower that had only played a handful of first grade games. So, but outside of that, we had this Steve Turner, Frank Pritchard, Luke Lewis, Luke Rooney, Shane Rodney, Luke Swain, Trent Waterhouse.
Yeah. The two hair bears.
That was Tony Pulatua, who started playing first grade at 17 through those tough years. Yeah. And then Joe Nullivow came.
That's him.
Joe Nullivow was tough, mate. He was so tough.
He was like an outside back fullback. Then came there and turned into a back rower.
Yeah.
And so we had this nucleus of these juniors. Pritis came in 2002 with Marty.
From
the Bronx. They won the comp in 2000, you guys.
Yep.
Yeah. So we had this nucleus of really good young players. It's a little bit like how Panthers have gone through this last 5 years.
Same.
Group of young players that have had a lot of success in the juniors.
Yeah.
They hit first grade. They taught us older blokes how to win again.
Yeah.
And then I think we'd only won one in the first 4 or 5 rounds in 2003. I think we were paying 101 to 1 to win the comp. And then we went on the 7-match winning streak.
Just builds confidence, doesn't it? You know, when you get on that run.
Another 7. But I think the big difference was Langy just simplified everything. You guys have come off 2 lean years, 1 lean year, then he came in. A lot of people took a fair bit of time to get used to his coaching, how simplified he was. And then by the time sort of 2003 came around, everyone sort of said, okay, well, it doesn't have to be difficult this game.
Yeah.
And everyone sort of embraced it, and the young players just, mate, they shot the lights out, the young guys.
The grand final, what do you remember?
Grand final Roosters.
Of course, your famous tackle, but I was at that grand final.
So was I.
And was it raining that night?
Pouring.
That's right. That's what I remember as well.
Night.
And I remember the Roosters were the gun side, weren't they?
Yeah.
We were massive.
We were the minor premiers, but we were like just massive outsiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one gave you a chance much, did they?
I think we were paying like $3.50 on the market or something.
Yeah. So tell us about the tackle, mate. What's your memory of the tackle? You've told it 1,000 times, but you remember the tackle?
Yeah, Gerds has talked about it a bit.
Because, mate, with all due respect, you weren't known for you weren't known for your pace.
Yeah.
That wasn't an asset that everyone thought, he's quick, that's Satch, you know. You're great work ethic,
no one there.
Great team person. But your skinny burn you just took off. And
growing up, I was fortunate enough to be in the presence of some of the greatest
Ron
people
in
rugby league. And so to come across Bobby McCarthy and Ron Coote, to me it was just like running into Ronnie and Bobby.
Yeah.
To a lot of people, there's Bob McCarthy and Ron Coote. So that was such a big fixture in my life, like Lurch O'Neill and Gary Stevens and Jimmy Lyle and Bobby Grant and all these sort of guys. Yeah, Michael Cleary's my godfather.
Wow.
And Eric Sims, they're just part of the family. So anyway, I remember when I realised that I wanted to play rugby league, and I was playing lock forward, and I was sort of 17, 18, starting to get a little bit of interest from a couple of people. And Ronnie Coote said to me, mate, when you're lock forward, just get in behind the line just in case you're always sort of needed. And he always used to say to me, if you ever got to chase someone, focus on the corner post. Don't focus on the person. He said, focus on the corner post, and if they're not in your vision yet, you're half a chance of getting them.
Oh, good advice.
Wow.
And so I'd got myself in this situation on a number of occasions and did exactly that and was been able to execute it. And just because it was on grand final night, obviously it's a lot more polarising.
Superseded, yeah.
And so when I did that, I took off and I looked at the corner post and Skinny wasn't there yet because Luke Lewis had got a bit of an ankle tap on him and he sort of slowed him up a little bit. Yeah. And I just, when he came into the picture, I was from me to
already there.
Yeah, and I thought, I'm half a chance of getting him here. And then because it was a wet night, I was able to get him into touch as well. And so,
that tackle.
It was selfishly for me, it was my last game at the club.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to, still after the game and still today, it's what we do as players. But and you don't think it's anything bigger than anything else. I sometimes feel sorry for Luke Pritis because his performance that night, still today, is one of the greatest.
Well, he got the Did he get the Churchill?
He got the Churchill by the length of the straight.
He was so good.
I remember. Yeah, he
scored a try, set up 2 tries.
Yep.
Was suffering real bad sickness leading into the game,
but no one talks about Luke Pritis,
and they should be, unfortunately. But for me, selfishly, to be able to leave the club on a really good note was, one, for the premiership with your teammates, and two, just individually, it's sort of satisfying.
So
to
do
me,
the Panthers know how to party or what?
Mate,
Yeah.
I've got some good yarns about this because, our great mate who's now, rock solid, he's off the drink, but Hoops went missing for 3 days on your bus.
Yeah,
Hoops
he
went
did.
partying.
Yeah.
They sent a young journo from the Telegraph,
Really?
Super,
Yeah.
and they put him on the bus. He was supposed to write post-match, went missing for 3 days. True
So
story.
we hijacked a bus on the Monday.
Hijacked a bus.
Hijacked a bus. Like, it was on its normal route
Right,
through
they just-
Penrith. And basically we got everyone on the bus singing the team song so they could drop us off at the stadium for the fan day. It was on Tuesday for the fan day.
Right.
But go back to the night of, and it was a late grand final. I think we kicked off at like 8:30 or something, or 8:15. And so by the time we got out of the dressing sheds, and back then the journos would just walk in and sit down in a cubicle and have a chat to you. Remember once upon a time they used to ring you at home, didn't they? They just on your home phone. But Jimmy Hooper, who was a young journo, he always got on well with everyone.
Legend.
He's a great guy. And he was talking with Gowie and I, and we were walking out. And we said, "You want to come on the bus?" He goes, No. Because he stopped at the bus, at the door of the bus. He stopped. We said, "Why don't you come on?" He goes, No. I go, "Mate, just jump on, Hoops." So he jumped on. He's filing stories and not filing, he's writing stories and he's getting
notepad.
photos with the cup. And we're going, how good. Anyway, we went back to the club. If you look closely, we're on the stage at Penrith. Hoops is like the back left somewhere on the stage with us. And then we go to the Peachtree Hotel the next day. And one of my vivid memories, I'm sitting at one of the high bars and there's all these drinks, bourbon and cokes that hadn't been drunk. There's people just left them there. There's myself and Hoops. And Hoops says, "I'm going to go to the bathroom." Didn't see him again.
Right.
And then we went looking for him. We found him in the cubicle, like with a trough in his pocket. Now, obviously, Hoops is going through his own stuff at the moment, and he's a great guy. And
Mate, one of the best. But he talks about it, the greatest premiership he's ever won.
Yeah.
He won it with Penrith.
So Kenty arrives on the Monday afternoon at Peachtree. I'll never forget, Paul Kent walks in and goes, "Hey, boys, have you seen Hoops?" We go, "No, I haven't seen him." He said, and so Kenty's running around trying to file stories. And Chippy Frelingos was the boss back then.
Yeah.
Trying to file stories and so you get in for Tuesday's edition. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
One of the greats. They partied hard, didn't they? It was such a. 91 was the one that you won, and like obviously,
Well, it's a small community.
Yeah,
and it's really confined. Out there, you'd go for a beer on a Sunday, like if we got together or a barbecue, and if two players got into a stoush, usually it's Craig Gower and Steve Carter to get like against each other because there was like two alpha males.
Yeah.
And Craig Gower was about 20 at the time, but you'd never hear about it. No one would ever hear about it because it's
happens in the
What
community.
happens in the West stays in the
yeah,
West.
exactly. It's like a real close community, and everyone's livelihood. Their week of work started on the result of the game the weekend before. So, yeah, great place. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great experience for you,
So
mate.
you go to the Tigers, mate.
Yeah, I go to
How'd
Tigers.
that-
Got squeezed out, did you? Of the
Yeah,
salary cap?
we had so many really good young players coming through, and I always wanted to finish there, of course. And my body was going okay, and I always had a bad knee the last last 2 or 3 years, but just through surgeries. And at the start of the year, I met with Shane Richardson, and Richo said to me, "If you're going all right halfway through the year, we'll have another contract for you." And so that year I had missed a game and played every second of every game, and we were going really well. And then I made Origin, and I was in Origin camp, and Gordy said to me, "Oh, you're going to South, are you?" I went, "What?" He goes, "No, it's in the paper here."
Oh.
I went, "What are you talking about?" So when I got back out there after Origin in 2003, I went out to see Richo to say, "Mate, what's happening?" You told me if I was playing really well that I have a contract. And he had to break the news to me. They've got all these young players like Waterhouse and Rodney and these guys that need to be upgraded. And as a player, you don't accept it and you don't understand it. When you get out of the game, and I started at the Gold Coast Titans as a GM there, and he started working with salary caps, light bulb moment, you sort of go, "No, it was probably the right decision."
Yeah.
So, talk to us about that Origin. The Origin, like I reckon you didn't play enough Origins. That's me, and I've said this to you before. But how'd you get selected for Origin? How did this all play?
I don't know. I got called in a couple of times.
Yeah.
When with injury, usually it was when Gordy was going to judiciary, and he'd get off.
Yeah.
And so went to the start of the year. Wayne had start of one of those years. I think it was 2000, 1992. He'd started like a
Emerging Origins
camp. Remember that, Kevie?
Yeah.
And so, I got to go to a few of those. But I was playing in an era also where I was up against Tony Carroll, Brad Thorne, Gordy Tallis.
Yeah.
Had some pretty good peers that were around me as
unbelievable
well.
at that stage.
To not be chosen when I was getting told I was going to be chosen over a series of years was disappointing, but it didn't affect me.
No.
But then when I got the phone, I remember standing outside my son was in kindy. I was sitting outside his classroom, and my best mate, who became my then brother-in-law, who was still one of my best mates, Clinton O'Brien, who played at Newcastle, won a comp at Newcastle. He rang me. I said, "Hey," his nickname's Salmon. I said, "How you going, Salmon?" He said, "Yeah, good. Congratulations, mate." I said,
For what?
"For what?" He goes, "You made Origin." I went, "What Origin?" He goes, "State of Origin." I went, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You should be named in the Origin team." I went, and all of a sudden an 073 number came through. It was the QRL. It was Desi Morris. He just said, "Oh, mate, you've been picked in the Origin team." And
how good.
I'm 31. I mean, what is this a joke? Is this a prank? A lot of players put people up to these sort of situations. Can you turn up with your playing gear on and get a photo taken? And thought it was like one of those pranks. And so then I got a fax that came through, not an email, a fax that came through with the details about you got to get on a plane the next morning. And we arrived. The guys are out of Brisbane. They're the out of Brisbane players had to go on the night before. So it was myself and Matty Bowen and Mick Crocker, Shannon Hegarty.
Yeah.
We went in the night before, and Boxhead was our manager.
Stevie was the manager,
We went and had a beer, and Mick Crocker just got full as a boot.
Lined it up, did he?
And we were trying to get him into bed.
Yeah.
And Boxhead was going, "Come on, mate, get into bed." He goes, "Who are you? What have you ever done?" He was
we've all had a good night with Mick Crocker. Holy smoking.
That was a battle. And then they go through the camp, even at 31, and think that you've probably covered everything in the game from a knowledge sense.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to go into the camp, and Wayne Bennett's the coach. I'm going to learn how to play this game like on a completely new universe.
Yeah.
The X's and O's. And so I get into camp. First 3 days, I'm sitting and I'm room with Petro. I'm sitting on the end of the bed, and Petro could see that I was perplexed. He goes, "Are you all right? Are you having a good time?" I said, "Mate, I'm having a ball." When do we start breaking down the opposition? Like, what does Joey do and Matt Gidley do? And, he goes, "Oh, no, we won't look at the opposition." I went, "What do you mean?" He goes, No, just don't drop the ball, make your tackles, be disciplined, and when Lockie wants the ball, give it to him."
That's the game plan.
That's the game plan, mate. It's that easy.
Yeah.
What was it like? Origin, another level?
Yeah, it was. The game goes so quick, doesn't it?
Fast,
I remember looking at the clock, and there was like a minute and a half to go of the first half, and I thought, it's just a flash.
Yeah.
And your opposition and how quickly they're moving and thinking because you got all the elite players in your opposition that are thinking on the run.
Yeah.
And watching Joey put on the clinic that night. And just watching him and the way that he just worked on a dime. He just shifted on a dime at any stage of the game. The hits were a lot more brutal as well.
And more often, hey?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so the speed was amazing. The contact, the collision was amazing. And then not to get called back for the game 3 was really, I was disappointed. I thought I'd had a good enough game to sort of hold my position. Yeah. But then there was this kid from Melbourne called Cam Smith that came in.
And that's where he debuted.
And my mates rang me and go, "You lost your position?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Who'd they put in?" I said, "Oh, the kid from Melbourne, Cam Smith."
Who?
Yeah, Cam Smith. They go, "Don't worry about him. You'll be back in." 50 Origins later.
One of the greats of all time. Who was best player you came up against in your career?
Best player came up against and who created the most amount of problems. I can't split Joey and Lockie.
Yeah.
I can't split them. Lockie, because of his pure athleticism and what he could do.
Hard to defend against, eh?
Lockie could play lock. He could play, if he wanted to, he'd play the same game, 5'8", centre, fullback. But he was just athletic ability and what he could do was just, it was on the next level. And Joey, just his skill level. His sledging was great. He'd put you off his game, and then he'd kill you with his skill.
Yeah.
And his ability to read the game was those ones you're talking about. They're 2 steps ahead of people. I can't split those two. Yeah.
What about good ones there, Dobbo?
Yeah, bloody out there. So, mate, you retire, and like you went to the Titans. That didn't work out. And then you obviously built an unreal career in the media. Like, you've been very highly respected. And I say that we've worked together. You've worked in all different levels, Intra, Super Cup, Host Plus Cup, and that. But I think now, I feel like right now is back where you should be. Like, you've come back as a role at the Gold Coast Titans on a complete and utter rebuild as the head of football. Just, I know you wanted that for so long, and I know there was different opportunities, but just how this transpired, because when Brett Frizzell said, look, we're getting this right this time, they went and got Josh Hannay, tick, and then the most important signing I think they made was getting you, mate, because the Gold Coast DNA is what they needed.
Thank you, Dobbo. First and foremost, I feel as though for myself, there's sort of some unfinished business as well. They're starting it, and being a kid that's been involved since 1988 is really important to me.
Yeah. So you got a direct affiliation with the club, haven't you? Because the DNA of the place.
Yeah. And to be able to make sensible decisions, which is within the best interests of the region and the club, is really important. So, and we've got to be really proactive around those things. But outside of the media, for the last 15 years, I've worked,
PI, won't you?
Well, I've worked in crisis management, investigation and risk for 15 years, and for me to leave the game, still stay connected to it, whether it's through media. I've done some recruitment, and part of our business also we would go into sporting organisations and basically just do a full review and reshape of their org structure, whatever it may be. So without being intricately on a day-to-day basis, I've still been connected from an operational sense and a recruitment sense, and from a media sense and from a risk management sense. So it was really important for me to go away and build a completely different body of work away from the game, which is really important. You can live in a bubble in rugby league,
big time,
and you can think that everything on the outside of that bubble doesn't exist. And so for me to do that was really important. And to go and work in an industry where confidentiality is of the utmost importance, being really discreet, but also trying to build a file for someone who's been charged with a crime that you feel as though as an organisation they're not guilty of.
Yeah.
And you got to do everything you can to try and
show that they're not. Yeah.
Try and get them a not guilty verdict. And to be able to work in a lot of that space has given me a lot of confidence about the different the different areas that life throws at you as well. So that's probably the most important period of my professional life, the last 15 years where I've been able to work
So you built that company from scratch?
No, it was with a really good friend of mine who had been in the industry, and he asked me to come and give him a hand because he got asked by an AFL club to go and look at their football department. Right. And go and have a look at why they're not succeeding, why they're not playing finals. Yeah. So I went in and helped him do a full review of the AFL club, and then from there,
a good experience.
He said, "Yeah, and they're a beast, the AFL, the money they deal with, and so from there he just said, listen, do you want to learn a little bit more about the trade?" So I did that, and then looked at it from more of a business point of view as well. And
you've had success there. Can I ask you this about the Titans? Can they be successful on the coast?
Absolutely.
I know everybody says, but are the right tools there? And are there, people are saying, it's a holiday city. I don't see that.
It's a great place to bring up kids.
I see that it's a proper sporting.
It's not a transitional. People you keep using words. It's a transitional community. It's not. It's people who have moved from Melbourne, Sydney, all parts of Australia that have based themselves on the Gold Coast because the lifestyle. But they've stayed there as well, and their kids have now had kids as well. So it's not transitional. Yeah. It is for a small percentage like anywhere else. But the Gold Coast is an entertainment mecca. Yeah. Everyone's got their Melbourne it's the sporting precinct. Sydney it's the eating and the hospitality, and it's an entertainment mecca on the Gold Coast. And I've said this a number of times. You just got to be the hottest ticket in town.
So that means winning.
And if you win, and it's sometimes not about winning.
Well,
it's about having a team, one, that is entrenched in the community, got to be connected to the community, got to treat the community with respect. And also, in return, the community will say, well, we're going to back you because you love us, we love you, and together let's go on this ride together. So can they be successful? learning firsthand and being in a club that's been at the bottom of the ladder, everyone is 2 years away from what they deem as success. And so we've got to follow that path now of making some really smart decisions off the field.
Yeah.
Some people who've got great experience, know what winning looks like, know what leadership looks like, and a really exciting, good group of players. I think everyone can...
The roster's
your roster's pretty good.
Your roster's there, mate.
Start of the year, everyone's picking the Gold Coast Titans to be in and around sort of that top 8, and it didn't happen that way. But that just proves that at the start of the year, everyone sees promise in it. Now it's about putting all the right jigsaw pieces in the puzzle correctly to make sure that we can just all be aligned and be connected and head in the right direction.
Are you confident that that's going to happen?
Well, I've got to be confident. And I'm confident in my own ability, and I'm confident in the people that we're starting to amass around the organisation. That
it's
the
a people
players,
thing. You get the right people, Dobbo, you can do
everywhere they look. Everywhere they look, the players have got to see someone that what they stand for first and foremost, and then the players.
Are you pulling down the dojo tent?
The dojo tent's staying.
It is.
Yeah, the dojo tent's staying.
Really?
Yeah, because it's.
It's an ornament there, mate.
It might get flooded.
Because your facilities
It might get flooded. It might flood.
Your facilities are great there, aren't they? Like your home stadium's fabulous.
Yeah, it does. But building
at Parkwood.
Yeah, but you got a new one coming, haven't you?
Well, 2 years' time. There's that's public. That there's the new facility that looks to be getting built around Emerald Lakes, so around near where that middle part of the Gold Coast is, on your way to sort of Broadbeach and.
But if it doesn't flood, it's okay.
It's unreal. I'm only stirring him up.
Yeah,
the dojo tent.
Well, there's a lot of NRL clubs that can't claim they've got a golf course.
Yeah.
On the
facilities.
So it's is it conducive to winning? Absolutely.
Yeah. So
we know, it's not about the facilities all the time. It's what's inside.
It's the people that are using the facilities, Dobbo, isn't it? Right. So you've started work at the Titans? Yeah.
No, I've been we've been doing a lot in the background.
He would have been working. He would be on the phone going. There's no question.
But officially, the Friday after the NRL Grand Final.
Right. So that's good, mate. So you must be excited about that.
I'm really excited. I'm nervous, like any new environment. And rugby league, even though it is the same environment, you're working with new people. And, I'm excited. It's excited but nervous excitement, and it's going to be good to get in there and really just survey the land and just get a really good understanding of everyone's roles outside of the rugby league department, and everyone else in the administration, just sort of understanding their roles and how the rugby league department can be connected to them rather than separated.
I'm sure,
they've got the right blokes. They've got the right bloke.
There's no reason why the Titans can't be.
I think the Frizzels, they are Gold Coast, and Beck and Brett love it. It's in their DNA, and the fact that they've gone down that road, Sattler speaks for them. And there's more to come from all reports. There's a lot more DNA. You got the number one hand ticket holder, Gordon Tallis, is a Titans man as well. Yeah. He's a Titans man, much to your disgust. But,
no, I don't
want him to be a Bronco.
No, well, mate, as long as he's supporting someone, it's fine, mate.
Tongue in cheek.
He will never ever.
I mean, as a Queenslander, and I'm obviously coaching the Australian side, but I'm very practical to the Queensland.
Oh, bloody hell, yeah.
Doing well. The Titans, the Dolphins, and the boys up north, we need them all playing finals.
Yeah.
And then the game will be better for them.
Can we have it quickly, Sats? Can there be a fifth side? Does Ipswich or
do
you think there should be a fifth side?
From a Gold Coast Titans perspective, you go, no, you don't want anyone else in your backyard. But for the strength of the game and for the fan, I think absolutely. I'm even more so thinking, is Toowoomba ready for it? Probably, maybe not just at the moment. Ipswich is definitely, but the unfortunate part about it is that so much funding is going into stadiums for the Olympics.
Yeah.
That does Ipswich miss out on a brand new
stadium.
facility? You know, so but in saying that, can it house firsthand that I was involved in that the NRL bid for that 17th team of the Western Corridor bid, and when we look at the data and the numbers back then and putting that bid together,
crazy
to us, and we're biased, it was just a no-brainer. Yeah. Absolute no-brainer. Yeah.
Righto.
The best, mate. Thanks so much for being with us.
Honestly, in all seriousness, I love watching your
well, you can go home and watch yourself
guys.
now, mate.
Yeah.
How good's that?
It's awesome. So good to catch
Thanks for coming on, Sats. Love you, mate.
The difference hat.
Well, mate,
Billy Walters, the difference.
We've got one for you.
How good.
Here it is, mate. We've got to present you with one, mate. As Welcome. You're
The
part of
difference.
it, mate. You get one.
There we go.
Yeah.
Billy Walters. Love you.
Easy.
Love you, Bill.
Yeah. Good on you, mate.
Go on your Satch.
Good
Thanks,
stuff.
mate.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.